Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're playing Forspoken Demo. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Zarel. Let's get to it. Alright, today we're talking about Forspoken, the demo that is out right now, so you can try it out and see what it's all about. Before we get to that, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell to be notified of all future episodes as soon as they go live. So let's get into it. In a word, Forspoken, my experience with it, is disappointing, but with a few caveats, and we'll get into that here in a minute, because we need to talk about everything that's going on with the demo. Obviously, this is not the full game, and they put you in at a specific time frame during your journey of the game. So you're Frey. You get sucked up from New York and spat out into this realm. And by chance, by luck, whatever you want to call it, you have magic. Alright, so I did the tutorial. And, you know, they kind of go through the base of the basics. They say, okay, this is how you move. This is how you do your magic parkour. They don't say that, hey, by the way, you do have stamina for your magic parkour, and that does run out. You have attack magic and different types of attack magic. So you can switch between the different ones, and time slows down slightly, quite a bit, I would say. And you can do light attacks or heavy attacks, but they don't tell you that the heavy attacks have a cooldown, so you have to wait for those to, you know, charge back up before you can use them again. You also have support magic. Support magic will, you know, help shield you, slow guys down, stop them, etc. That types of stuff to keep them from harming you and giving you a chance to harm them. So, just like attack magic, anything that charges up, you'll have to wait for the cooldown before you can use it again. Now, it appears that your magic bracelet that you get when you come into this realm shields you somewhat from attacks, so not every attack is going to take off life. And then you find out later on there are different types of magic. So for simplicity, you know, you have one that is ranged attack and one that is more of a melee attack. So magic melees and magic arrows. Every encounter that you have gives you a grade. So you get a grading system based on, you know, the different combos and attacks and whatnot that you do. And you'll see, you know, oh, +6 because you attacked them from behind, etc. Now, in the demo, you get 5 objectives. And this is supposed to help, you know, flush out what's going on within the world. So, one of the things I would say is that they don't tell you that you can scan your terrain for enemies and other things that are of importance, because I will say that a lot of times the enemies kind of blend in with their surroundings and it's a little bit harder to see. Now with the birds, you can see them because they're flying, they're moving around. Even though they are dark, you can still kind of see them and it's not a big deal. But even the elk, which are in the same area, you don't necessarily see until they're coming at you. Now these are what you call break beasts. You can kind of see, they kind of look diseased. So they have some sort of magical infection. So we're going to have to take them out.
That's it.
They are aggressive. They will attack you, just like the birds.
Yep.
They'll come looking for you. So you do have to do something about them. You do see attack arrows from characters, enemies off screen coming at you. And up to this point, They don't tell you anything else other than, hey, use your attack magic and support magic, take these guys out. Alright, so we get to this central refuge, the water garden. This is where you can go and you can rest, regain your health. You can also craft, do some upgrades, and then loot whatever is not nailed down. Also as a fast travel point. So, various things that you can do here. It's kind of the calm, the eye of the storm, you know, the calm, where you can take a breath. You're like, oh man, it's getting really crazy out there. You go into the refuge and it's no big deal. Now the towers act like the perches in Assassin's Creed, where it kind of displays, it gets rid of the fog and displays points of interest within a short distance, I would say, within that tower. And of course the towers are scattered throughout the map, so you can see what's going on and get points of interest without being, you know, right next to it. Now the objectives are on the map and were on the map, so even if you didn't do the tower, you would still be able to see it. Now one of the things that we need to do is take out all these enemies on the bridge. One of the other things that you have with your magic is evasion, or magic evasion, parkour evasion, I don't know. You hit the button, parkour button at the right time, or L plus the parkour button, and you will do a dodge. And you'll know when you do the dodge because it's exaggerated. All these archers, they're going to attack multiple times. They're able to knock arrows a lot faster than you would think. And of course you lose points for taking damage. You get special extra points for attacking with magic that they're vulnerable to. And then there's also this kind of like super attack that you can do that you can build up towards. I'm not sure if it's on a timer or if it's just as you're attacking it builds it up, kind of like a rage meter or something like that. And then that will take out a bunch of enemies within a certain range. So the range isn't really big, so you have to be pretty or relatively close to where they're at. Plus you have to have it on the right magic in order to do it, and each one is a little bit different. So it's something to keep in mind. Now in general, I would say the magic, support magic, battle magic, the whole thing feels a little disjointed. It doesn't feel seamless to me, and that could partially be because you're kind of dropped in somewhere in the middle, so you don't have that progression where you're learning and it is becoming part of what you do. Plus only having an hour or so in the demo, you don't necessarily have that familiarity with the control system that you would if you're playing. So
That's not doing much.
that is part of the, I would say, the disappointment, where it doesn't feel seamless, where you're kind of feeling a little disjointed between everything that's going on. Now this boss fight, this is your first, I would say, mini boss, is the first time that I felt like everything was mostly coming together. You know, I figured out what this person was vulnerable to and started using it. And then I got some
Very reassuring.
magic parkour evasions going on, so all this stuff was starting to come together, but it still felt, it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like it was right there. It felt like I really had to put in some maximum effort in order to make it work. Now, the menus are a little... They take a little getting used to. It is more RPG instead of like action oriented, so you do have to be aware of that. Now, after you scan the area, you can look at the creature and say, oh, you need to use Sila's magic, which will do more damage. But just using Sila's magic itself isn't necessarily what they are. This particular creature is vulnerable to, because there are at least 3 types of magic within each school of magic, and I'm sure you get more as you go along, so there gets to be more and more options, so more things to get wrong. And when you're doing magic parkour, all it says is, hey, do, hold down the circle and do that. But then that is only for the horizontal spaces. What about the vertical spaces? They don't really talk about that at all during the demo. And maybe you don't have that in your wheelhouse at the time. So that is at least part of it. But, traveling horizontally, it's very self-explanatory. You've got the, magic stamina, and you've got the magic parkour, which helps you travel great distances, but not necessarily the vertical. Now, one of the cool things that I came across as I was playing are these treasure chests that have special puzzles for locks, and you have to kind of figure out how to make them work. And those hand puzzles that have like 9 pieces and 1 open slot, and you have to move them around. This is a lot like that, and I thought that was pretty cool. But instead of 1 open slot, there is 2, and as a result, you might be moving 1 or 2 pieces, which I didn't realize at the very beginning of this. I'm like, I don't want to move 2 pieces. I just want to move 1 piece, and so it took me a couple minutes to figure out. And I'm like, oh, okay. So if you go in one direction, you're moving 2 pieces. If you move a different direction, you're moving 1 piece. So then I just have to figure out, do I want to move 2 pieces or do I want to move 1 piece? And then kind of figure out in my mind what it should kind of look like at the end. And then say, oh, okay, there we go. And then you're done and you can unlock it.
Next.
So there we go. They call them mystic locks. I call them puzzle locks. You can call it whatever you want.
Jackpot.
And then you get a special reward, whatever that chest is going to give you. Now, one of the things I want to also say is that sometimes the developers want the enemies to kind of blend in with the surroundings, give you a more of an ambush setting. But in general, I think that a lot of the characters, the enemies that you come across, are hard to see. There's not enough contrast for you to be like, oh, that's a blah blah blah, and from any distance other than your immediate surroundings. So I'm not real crazy about that. This was interesting. You go into this hot spring, whatever, or pool, or whatever you want to call it, and then you gain extra magic. So some of the magic you gain through experience, some of the magic you gain through specific actions. Like we defeated that mini boss, and then we got a summon spell from that. This one, we got a new, parkour spell out of it. So it's interesting that you get certain spells only by doing certain things. You can't just level up and then learn them as you go. Additionally, you also have challenges for different spells, which you have to do certain things in order to do, like magic parkour, and then one of the things you have to do is you have to, do the perfect dodge to miss getting attacked. Now, looking at the map, it's a 3D render of where you've been, plus any towers that have unfogged the area. So you have fogged area, you have unfogged area. It doesn't get unfogged unless one of two things happen. Either you've been there before, and it kind of unfogs a small area around you, or you've been to a tower that has unfogged a larger portion, which also does the points of interest. Now, this is one of the times that I would have liked a little bit more about traversal because of the vertical nature of where I was trying to get from and to. And there's obviously a lot of that involved. And I'm sure, I would hope, that there would be a decent amount in the actual game. But I don't know. I can only tell you what I've experienced in the demo, which was not very explanatory. Now, this demo is actually, I want to say 30 gigabytes. So it's not a small demo. It's quite large. Now, as we're going along, this is one of the objectives. And you get a bonus defense. How much does that help you? I don't know. But being towards the beginning of your journey, I would say, all those little things that you find that adds to your stats are going to help a decent amount. All right, so then I just happened to come across another one. It would have been on the map, but I went and checked it out. And that's one of the things. The demo is going to take you about 50 minutes to an hour, roughly, depending on how much sightseeing you do and how frustrating you find it to get from one spot to another. And, the more of the little side things that you do, the longer, obviously, it's going to take to get through it. But you can kind of get more immersed in it. This was one of the things that was revealed with the tower, but it wasn't one of the objectives. So it's one of those things that you can do, but you don't have to do. Obviously, if you're playing the full game, you're going to want to do that. All right. So one of the things, it's a time trial. You have to take out all the enemies on the bridge within a certain amount of time. The faster you do it, the more flair you do it, the better score and the more rewards or more loot that you're going to get as a result. Now, unlike the last one where you only had the boss at the end, this one has a boss, but it also has other guys that are going to be trying to take you out at the same time. So you do have to make an effort. Do you only focus on the boss, or do you focus on the minions and then focus on the boss? But once you take out the boss, then you're done, at least with this particular one. And then whatever score you get based on your time and battle score, you'll get a reward. With your bonuses, first time bonus, and then there you go. Top tier gives you the best loot, and that was actually the top tier that I got, so huzzah! Alright, and this was actually on the way to the fifth and final objective that I was doing, which was getting a cloak, getting a new cloak. I kind of feel like these cloaks are a little bit more shawl-like than cloaks.
Could pretend we didn't notice.
But whatever. You can call them whatever you want. So it's another bridge. Now, I didn't have to necessarily take out these guys on the bridge. I probably could have run past them. Much like in the full game, you know, you're going to have choices how you want to handle getting from place to place, how often you want to get into encounters. Now, one of the other things is that as you're going through, you'll hear the bracelet and Frey talking to each other. So I believe the bracelet is probably Scylla, and then Frey is the girl or you. Could be wrong. Anyway, so you hear the conversation between them, and whenever these enemies are lower level, basically the bracelet's like, hey, you're punching down, and she's like, yeah, so. And you hear these conversations about how Frey's punching down on these guys. So after, you know, and the longer you go, the more often it's going to pop up where the enemies that you're coming into contact with are lower than you. So you're going to be hearing that a lot. And, you know, the first 10 times is fine, but once you get to about 50, the 50th time that you hear it, you're going to be like, ugh. As with the one trailer that we saw where the lines, the scripts are pretty cringy. This is also pretty bad as well. So, although it's fine, you know, the first couple times as you go along, if you continue to keep hearing that, it's not great. One of the other things that you see along the map, these little almost ephemeral plumes that will recharge your magic stamina so you can parkour longer. That's not gone into in the tutorial or anything else. You just have to figure it out on your own. Alright, dodge rolls. One of the other things you can do, this is the last objective as well, so once you complete this, then you'll essentially be done with the demo. You also have the ability to go sightseeing and check out other things afterwards, so it's not a big deal if you complete this without looking around. If you're like, man, I don't want to do this because I still want to look around and do the things, you can still do that after you finish it. So it's up to you when you want to do the objectives. Now, I will say, depending on the location, enemies are easier or harder to see. And I don't know if that is a design choice or if it's just happenstance where sometimes they're easier to see and sometimes they're not. Now, yes, you can always scan the train and be like, oh, there's 2 guys there, there's 4 guys in the air. But sometimes I feel like you should be able to see them without scanning every 10 seconds. If you're parkouring through an area and then, you know, you come across a particularly, you know, if you go exploring and you come across a particularly difficult enemy, you'd want to see them farther out than having to scan for them. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check us out on social media, and thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see you next time.
Let's see. What do we got here?